Oh, wow.
And welcome to Reality NSFW Rewind. We changed our name. I don't know. Time is weird in 2021, but we changed our name a while ago, and I'm still saying Survivor NSFW, but we are now Reality NSFW Rewind. Professor Tim watches Survivor Africa. I am, as always, your host, Karen Eisenberg, and I am joined, of course, by Professor Tim. Tim, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very well. I've had such a good week, really.
Awesome.
Yeah, no. It's been made even better because I enjoyed today's program. I'm practically buzzing with delight. I got lots of animation done.
Good.
And I thought last night I was going to get a new job, but in fact, I'm not sure I have. But I've had a very interesting conversation about becoming a voice for an anarchic animated character. I don't know whether a sort of professor's voice sounds particularly like an anarchic animated character. You know, I'd like to animate an anarchic animated character. I don't see myself as Butthead, though. That's the problem.
Now, I'm not a big fan. I mean, I've heard of Beavis and Butthead, obviously, you're saying, but Butthead particular is the anarchist more than Beavis?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I have no idea. I have looked at them, but dialogue sort of blurs. I'm not a fan of dialogue in animation because it's so difficult to do. But I love sort of anarchic, the visual anarchic style. I find the sort of wisecracks a bit boring most of the time. I think I can do better. So maybe that is a reason why I should be the voice of one of these things.
You do one, I'll do the other. How about that?
Oh, well, that would be lovely, Allison.
So let me bring in our guest here. We are joined also by Allison Kelly from My Weekly Meltdown.
Hello.
Allison, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
And Allison is sitting here thinking, like, I thought I was here to talk about Survivor. We'll get there. In the meantime, we're talking about anarchic characters in cartoons specifically. Tim?
Yeah, well, absolutely, but I think they interchange very nicely with some of the characters in today's Survivor. But shall I tell you why I'm so happy today?
Please, I'm so glad you're coming around on this because I have loved Africa.
Well, I'm not necessarily coming around, but what happened in today's episode was I felt humanity finally arrived, and I was so relieved. I was thinking, you know, I was getting to the point where we weren't watching live action; we were watching a remake, and a rather poor remake of The Lion King. And today, with the exception of one little moment, which I thought, oh, for God's sake, this is E.T., where the moon dissolved into the sun. And I expected somebody to freewheel on a bicycle across the frame, you know. Right. Ethan probably screaming "Tally ho!" or whatever footballers say. I can't remember what football. I don't think footballers speak. They sort of they skid along the grass, injure their foot, and then cry, don't they? That's what footballers do.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've drawn so many of them. I used to teach a wonderful boy. And he was, I can't remember how old he was, certainly below 10 or something. And he wouldn't do any work unless I drew one of his favorite footballers. I think I ended up drawing about 100 footballers just so that I could have the excuse to discuss with this boy about medieval armor and how to defend your fort. So he's very well equipped on the difference between 11th century and 13th century armor in medieval Europe and France and Britain and stuff. And I, in turn, I know a few things about footballers. Now, I can't remember their names, but yeah, anyway.
Now, when Tim says football, he's talking British football.
Oh, I am. Yes, I'm soccer.
Yeah, soccer, because soccer is football.
Yeah, yeah. But
yeah, the rest of the world, yes.
And do you know, I'm literally sitting, well, shame on me to have so little interest in this sport, in the diversity of these sports, but I am sitting in the place where they all began. Literally, right? I'm in a town called Rugby, which is where the boy Ellis somebody or other picked up the ball and ran with it, and invented rugby football. And then, as a result, they had to write the rules for soccer football, and this in turn gives us American football. So the whole thing emerges from from my town, literally 100 yards down the road is where it all started.
But you're saying rugby precedes soccer, or is it that they played
No,
soccer
soccer-
and then somebody picked up the
Yeah.
ball and ran with that, and that's
So
how it was
in rugby school, somebody picked up the ball and ran with it, and so disobeyed the rules, but the rules hadn't been written down. So after that, the rules were written down. So it takes somebody to break the rules for you to know what the rules are. You know this as a lawyer, Karen.
Yeah.
You can't define.
In rugby, though, in the UK or in professional rugby, because the only rugby that I'm really familiar with is like college level rugby. One of my roommates joined the rugby team, and it was very, very violent. I remember they had competitions for Bruise of the Week.
It's violent. It's violent. I had to play it when I was a little 7-year-old at school, and I hated it. I don't quite understand it, but I'm a haemophiliac, so I think in principle I should never have played it. But I hated it so much. I used to try and hide behind the great big H at one or other end of the thing. I was very thin then. I used to hide behind that, take out my copy of Lord of the Rings, and try and read it again. And I've still got that copy. It's lost its front and back cover. It's pretty. It's pretty sort of raggedy, but I've still got it, and it's got its old price mark in shillings and pence, and it's so exciting. So this would have been pre-1970.
Oh my
I think
God.
Tim, at some point we've talked about this. Tim and I have never met in person, and now because it really started in the middle of the pandemic. But Tim is planning a trip to the U.S. Where I will show him around, and then I will come to the UK, Tim, and you will show me around your house because it just sounds like you have everything.
I'm in love with your wherever you're sitting right now. I'm like looking at
I'm
what you
in-
got
I'm
in the
in my front
background
room.
there.
I'm in my
That's what
front
I'm
room,
saying.
and
I
just
just-
behind me, I don't know whether I can move the. It's very difficult to move the camera. I have to move the entire computer, but just behind me, you can see there.
Oh my
There
God.
are my cats, and I've had to move the litter tray a little bit closer because the oldest cat is struggling with.
How old is your oldest cat?
She's 17, so she's quite sort of old.
Tim, I have a cat named Lily who is 18.
No, so there is life beyond 17. I'm so pleased, but I mean, my cats are sort of Siamese pedigree, so they tend not to live so long. So I've done very well, or she's done very well. But she's a determined lady. She's the sort of lady you would cross the street to avoid. But she was quite fierce in her youth. I remember I once had a nun to come round for tea. And Hannah sat on my shoulder and hissed. It was like a scene from The Omen. It was at any moment I expected the head to go round and sort of projectile vomit to go everywhere, but that didn't happen.
Well, my cats project. Well, don't even get me started. You
Yeah,
know about the vomit. We all know.
Hannah is not the vomiter, but the boy Bay is a wonderful upchucker. I'm alerted to the morning by a sort of sound of retching. And I think, there's another beautiful day. Yeah.
Do they make eye contact with you when they do it? Because my cat Finley will look at me.
Not so much now because I'm having to squirt injections of medicine into their mouth morning and night, and they hate me for it.
So I have basically no rugs. I have tile floors everywhere, except I do have a throw rug, like about 5 feet by 5 feet, directly beneath me now, just to improve the sound. So that is the only rug in the entire condo, and that, of course, is her favorite way.
Well, of course.
Of course it is.
Yeah, or if not,
does she ski around the floor?
What do you mean?
So
No.
Move it around the floor with her.
No, it's a little too heavy for that, and my desk is on it.
Oh, right. They wouldn't stop my cats. They would try.
They would try.
They would tear it apart trying to pull it.
At one point, I lived in a very chintzy. Not that I've got much further from that, even here. But at one point, I lived in a particularly chintzy cottage, and we had this lovely chintzy sofa, so shabby chic. But it got more shabby chic because Hannah and Bay decided that they had to do some serious tapestry and work on it. And every morning you would find them doing their decoupage or something, or something. It was quite disturbing. In the end, we managed to salvage a few little bits of the material, and we put them on other cushion covers or something.
But the rest of it was just shredded.
The rest just went. I mean, they burrowed right inside it.
Cats are crazy creatures.
And Bay is still drilling a hole upstairs, directly outside my bedroom. So early in the morning, I hear scratch, 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 and it's like a scene from one of those 1940s prisoner of war films. I expect I expect somebody like Ian Bannon to turn up and say, "Just keep going, just keep going," and everything in black and white. But yes, he's been doing that for 4 years now. He's got quite a sizable hole.
My dog did that once. I had a dog.
Really?
I've had dogs, throughout my life, not right now, but we had a dog who we would confine her like in one room in our basement when we had people over or whatever, and we would hear her scratching. But we sometimes went in. I guess we never really went into that room all that often, right? We would just that was kind of where we would throw, miscellaneous odds and ends and storage and the dog.
And dog.
So you have to go all the way in the room and go around the door to discover that, again, she was doing her best to dig through the wall and almost succeeded.
My goodness, really?
Yeah.
Was this in America or
this was in America?
And not in Israel. In America,
the walls are concrete, so that's much harder. But
right,
yeah,
your houses are not so well built in America.
It sounds that way, doesn't it?
Well, they're not bomb shelters, if you mean not well built.
That's exactly what I mean. When I think of well built, I think so solid. This is going to last for another 1,000 years.
And also in the UK, you have buildings there that are 1,000 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. The Queen lives in one.
Yeah.
I'm going to self-isolate in my palace, my castle. So she's self-isolating in what amounts to practically a town.
So she's like self-isolating in a small town.
Right.
Surrounded by soldiers. I mean, you can't get any more self-isolating than that, can you?
Mm-hmm. But I've heard that, and I know that royal staff, for many of these people, it's a career and they're very, very proud of it, oh, that's lovely. But
unless they steal things.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
But no, but a lot of them I heard over the Christmas holidays, even just for longer periods of time, were basically told to leave your families.
Yeah. No. Even now, they're in a bubble with the Queen, I believe. So that is it. That's their life.
Right. So you have a choice of either seeing your family or serving
or seeing the Queen. But do you find, Allison, tell me, do you dream about the president or the Queen?
No, not my president, but
yeah.
No. Your current president has probably provided the rug that Karen is now sitting on.
No, I don't.
I'm sure ultimately he's a generous man.
Of course, with my family, I would probably rather be isolated with the Queen or the president. I don't know.
Well, you come and join my dreams, because I regularly have dreams where I'm having conversations with the Queen, or I've recently had a very interesting conversation with Boris Johnson, which takes me back a bit.
Well, you actually knew, and Tim actually knew Boris. So
yes, I did, absolutely. Okay. Boris and Cameron and Clegg and then the leader of the other side, Miliband. I was at university with all of these people. So
wow.
At some point, I charge around the corner and go and sort of.
What did Boris
walk straight into me?
What did
not
Boris
very much. He was very charming, a lot more hair, but not actually very similar. On election night, I was at a do, and I was hobnobbing with Boris's family, which is sort of strange, really. And you think, well, yeah, it's an odd little world, and there was a point in my life when I thought that was the direction I wanted to go. So it is strange to suddenly think, now I'm off to sort of.
Tim's obviously mostly an academic, but had a stint in British politics.
Okay.
Yeah, and now I've had a stint in reality TV.
Yes.
The only thing really left for me now is No, I think the only thing left
he was
for me
on,
is
he was on the
pornography.
circle. He was recruited, and he had never even seen any reality TV at all.
No, I knew nothing about reality TV. So Karen is teaching me, and you're teaching me, Allison. So where do you think I should go after Survivor?
RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh no, I've come across bits of that because I met some of RuPaul's Drag Race people, and I think they're wonderful. And more than that, I think the show has got it right because it does its show. I haven't really seen much of the show, but I've met some of these people, and I posed with some of them, but and they're so tall. Once they've got all their stuff on, they're enormous, and I'm quite tiny, and I barely come up to up to, can I say, bust level? But
I don't think I'd even get that high. Yeah.
No, well, but anyway, what I love about RuPaul is that he seems to have set up a way to go beyond the program. So you do the program, and then there's a national tour, which is organized very, very professionally by American pros who know what they're doing. And in the case of the British program, they came over to the UK, set up this tour, and off went all these people to do their tour together. And I thought, this is the way to do it. So there's a clear bridge from reality TV into post-reality TV. And I don't know of any other reality TV program that's actually got a bridge into real life. The only bridge which is offered is psychiatry. And I think that's I think that's insulting and rather pathetic. And it's at the moment it's endorsed by our government. I can't think of any other career, any other job you do where you finish the job and somebody and your boss says, "Well, if you need to see a psychiatrist, this is the number. Goodbye." What does it say? What does it say about the job and about the program? It says this program, either it's using twits who are unstable in the first place, in which case we were wrong, we shouldn't have cast them, or it's saying this program is so destructive that you will no longer be sane when you leave it. There really isn't an alternative, and for the government in this country and in other countries, Australia as well, I think one or two other countries have also instituted this. But for governments to say, this is as much as we need to do. We don't need to pay these people properly. To hell with that. Let's use and abuse them and dangle this possibility of a mighty prize in front of them. Let's put them through hell, and then afterwards we'll manipulate them a little bit further and offer them a psychiatrist. That's good enough for anybody. Oh, and no union representation. And medical care? Well, who needs medical care? If they chop the hand off, we'll give them a doctor or a plaster, and otherwise we'll give them more psychiatric help.
Yeah.
And let's not stop there. Let's. What I didn't say is we use the psychiatrist in the first place to cast the thing. So the psychiatrist sees the potential cast members, and they say, "Oh, this person's a bit unstable. Yes, we'll have them."
Yeah, you're supposed to go through a psych evaluation before you're cast on any of these shows. And I just am amazed some of the people that have made it on Big Brother and Survivor and these other shows that clearly have issues, and the producers are like, they're going to make great TV, but they could give two shits about the outcome of this person's life after the show is over.
I think a lot of people don't understand this, that they think that, I'm thinking like Brandon Hance or other people, in Survivor. It's funny how the Hance is Survivor, Big Brother, they go on different shows with their psychiatric problems. But people say, they didn't vet them properly. And I think you're both right that it wasn't a mistake. This is not a bug, it's a feature, right? It's right. When they're too unstable, they can ruin the show. But you want to push them right up against that point where they will make TV.
Yeah, or maybe you just want to get professionals, because in my experience, the people that I know, almost every single person that I've spoken to, not so many people in Survivor, but in other programs, every single person I've spoken to has never applied for the program in the first place. They were tapped on the shoulder. They belong to a modeling agency, they've done YouTube or they've done something else, and they suddenly get a telephone call out of the blue. Would you be interested in joining this extraordinary program? And then afterwards, I made a mistake because I was shoved into an interview very quickly after I came out of the circle, and the interviewer asked me, on air, live programs. So all the mistakes were aired there and then. And I had a PR person sitting next to me who looked a bit like a sort of duck, and no, she just had a very sort of beaky nose, anyway, I like ducks.
Who doesn't like ducks?
Ducks sometimes lay a golden egg. And
what did you say? I have not heard this story. So you're live.
Well, no. So they said to me, "Why would someone like you apply to be on this show?" And I said, "Well, I didn't apply. I was telephoned out of the blue on a very wet day in Cambridge. I was so miserable. I would have said yes to everything." And after we finished, this lady with the sort of conical nose said to me, "You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that." And I said, "Well, you have to tell me when I'm supposed to lie and when I'm not supposed to lie. This wasn't on your list of lies."
I need the list of lies, please.
I need the list. I need to be. She said, "You should have known." Why would I have known? I've not seen any of this television before.
That's the difference, right, Tim? I think also a lot of the people that I think it's a very different experience when you are, like you said, plucked from another world and you really don't know what you're getting into, versus like people like Allison and I. And Allison, I know you've tried out for Big Brother.
Well,
right? But I mean, it's a very
made it to the finals,
right? But but you have some idea, and I'm not saying that you can't also have issues, even if you know what's going on. But I do think that just having an idea of what you're going into, what they're looking for, and like you said, what you're supposed to say and not say.
I knew all about television because I've been doing sort of television titles. I've done voice work and all these other bits and pieces, and I know about theatre. But reality TV is a genre that I'd sort of boycotted and ignored. My partner very much enjoyed some of the reality TV shows. He was watching RuPaul. He was watching Big Brother, and I was thinking, oh, for goodness sake, this is so dull, and walking away from it slightly dismissively, But having been on it, I just take my hat off to the editors who edit sometimes on the hoof and construct a story around this yecta membra of our lives, and I think even where I'm not entirely on board with the Survivor stuff, I cannot fault the storytelling. I know you say here that the producer wants to have this sort of grand filmic thing in Africa Survival, but I think the basic storytelling is very good, and this one is certainly, this episode bewitched me, and I hadn't worked out who was going out until we got to the final. Moment. I hadn't got it. I hadn't worked it out. In fact, I thought it was going to be the fellow beginning with S. What's his name? Silas. Yeah. I thought it was going to be Silas.
I have some information about Silas. If you guys are interested,
we need to have the information about Silas because there is a dark side which we've been hearing.
Do you guys know anything about what's going on with him right now?
Only a bad boy. Yes. Karen has told me a few things, but I've not heard very much. Tell me more.
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. He lives in Germantown. Yeah, Germantown is a suburb, just 10 minutes from Memphis. He has. And it's sad, but like he was arrested in November of 2019, accused of rape. And then more women have come forward, and all of this at church during Bible study.
Oh, that's where he's meeting these women? Is it Bible study?
Yes. He actually allegedly assaulted one woman after a Bible study class.
Yeah,
that is insane.
Well, that's disturbing.
It is very disturbing, and it's like, would it have been that big a deal if he had not been on Survivor 20 years ago? Like, it just kind of in Memphis. Like, it's sad, but it's kind of like, well, because he was on Survivor, let's throw it out there. But I actually had totally forgotten about it until he popped up on the screen. And I was like, oh my God, I remember this. Because it's still going on. Like,
Yeah,
it's
but,
still.
but I mean, as the episodes go on, there's an edge to him which is not that attractive, and it's dismissed in the show as, oh, he's behaving like a footballer, but he's doing all this sort of authority stuff. It's all about power.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about actually having ideas. It's about power, and that's always disturbing. And I see that so often in teaching. And I see it sort of, I see it all over the place. So we see it in the entire society today in Britain. Boris and his chums are more interested in power than they are in survival and dealing with things.
So let's get into it. I will be very interested to hear later why you thought it was going to be Silas, because I do understand that not knowing of the three older people which one was going to go home. Like, I think there would have been a very strong argument for them to vote off Frank at that point. But it is interesting that you thought that one of the people in the majority, because
Frank, I don't think Frank was annoying them. This is the point, and I think those younger four are very emotional. Poor dears, and I think they could deal with Frank because he's not actually annoying.
Now, is Frank the older guy that was trying to climb the tree with his ass crack?
No. That's Tom.
Okay, Tom. Okay, I didn't want to get him.
I've now decided Tom and I are interchangeable. It's just a problem with our vowels. And Tom has really got a problem with his vowels.
I did love that moment where we see, and by the way, Tim, we have seen people in later episodes, later seasons, actually able to pull that off, where they basically run up a tree.
Their name is Ozzy.
People can. I don't think they do it with their boots on.
Malcolm, I think, has done it. Yeah, but they're not, people of the size and shape of a Big Tom. But I was actually impressed that, he
got up so high. He got up right away. I mean, he was a good 10 feet up in the air before he fell back to ground.
I would have taken one look at that. I wouldn't. He didn't born now. I would have taken. I'm gonna starve to death.
Yeah,
ain't no way I'm getting up there.
I thought you were going to say I would have taken one look, and it would have been like an eclipse.
But they did all this, and then apparently the fruit is like, barely edible.
Horrible.
Tell me how old it is and how long it's been up there.
It wasn't ripe. It wasn't ready. When it's ready, it drops of its own accord. It's like adolescence.
That's true. No, but Tim, you've said something that's very obvious, but at the same time, I don't know if I've ever really thought about it exactly that way. That yes, like if you want to eat a fruit, like I said, when it's ready to be eaten, it will fall. And so if it is still on the tree, and certainly if you have to like hit the tree to get the fruit off, that means that by definition that it's not ripe.
Yeah, I think the point is those people who scramble up the trees and sort of top off bananas and coconuts and things, they've been dealing with these with this fruit for their whole life. They know when it's about to be ready, and they get it before it falls, so it doesn't get bruised. Tom, I don't know. He's good with goats. And obviously,
Tim has also been a goat herder, right?
Yeah,
not a goat.
He's seen goats go up trees, so he's doing the same thing his goats would do. So he knows that these trees are.
Goats. Wait. I just got to stop you. Your goats climb trees to get things.
100%, absolutely, yeah.
Really, I need to see evidence of this, Tim.
Yeah.
So in my when I was a goat herder in Greece, in the Taygetos Mountains and in the southern part of Greece in the Peloponnese, I would go up my mountain to try and find my goats, and there would be not a goat in sight. And there were two dogs running with the tribe, because goats, like survivor people, are in tribes, not herds. So they're not
really?
cattle.
So a group of goats is a tribe, not a herd?
It's a tribe of goats. Yep. Okay. And so the tribe leader and all the tribe of goats would be up in the olive trees. And you would notice them, A, because the mangy dogs would be sitting on the ground below the olive trees, and B, as you go up to the olive trees, they start tinkling like a sort of Christmas tree. Ding, 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 because they've all got bells. And then you say, you call out them by name, Yorgo, They jump out and come rushing up to me, and then.
But they want to eat basically these unripe olives, and they'll climb the tree
Not
to get them.
particularly. They sunbathe. They're adventurous. Yeah.
I think this might be the first time ever, Tim. But
And you can have a tree full of about. I walk in. When I walk into the trees, and I walk up to the trees, and there'll be sort of 30 goats in a tree. Yeah.
Again, the other thing is, I am familiar with where I used to live. I was in a more kind of rural part of Israel, and there were plenty of olive trees and plenty of goats. But
why didn't they go up the olive tree?
A goat in a tree.
Oh, you've got deprived goats in Israel. I don't know quite what's gone wrong.
But in Greece,
they've obviously got biblical pretensions. They're a little bit too weighty.
Yes, like we are goats land. We do not climb trees.
No, the goats have personality. They have distinctive voices. They're very clever. They're very nimble with their feet. They're like push me pull yous, They dance.
Yeah. Like I said, no, I agree with all of that. Like I said, the point where I start to question is this idea that they climb trees. Not to put, but whatever. We have to put this to the side.
The other thing about goats is sometimes if you see a number of probiotic type of animals, and you're not quite sure whether they're goats or sheep, you look at the back end, and if the tail's going up, it's probably a goat, and if the tail's going down, it's probably a sheep. But they're lovely. But goats have always got the personality. Sheep are rather dull. Sheep are a little bit like bees. They're sort of got this sort of.
But you don't think that if you were then herding sheep, that you would also have not gotten to know your sheep and named your sheep and.
I think sheep are interchangeable. I spent a childhood on a farm, and I knew about sheep. Mm-hmm. Sheep are just frightened of dogs. Goats are in control, in complete control, and they're so smelly.
Right, but you're also comparing British sheep to Greek goats. Maybe if you in Greece, were the sheep any more interesting?
No, the sheep are not very interesting. No,
okay.
I did know an occasional sheep, and an occasional sheep sort of strayed into my tribe and got mistaken for a goat, and I would know pretty soon, because it would be down at the bottom of the tree with the dogs sitting on it, so I'm a sheep. All my friends are up the tree. A little bit like Linda, sorry.
So
Linda is something else.
Yeah, and so what do you think, Allison? I always have to root for the older woman just because I know that what they're up against, and I feel a certain kinship, whatever. But I would have had a very hard time dealing with that.
She's not my kind of older lady. I just I think that she cracked a little bit in this episode, and no, I'm not gonna hug you. If you having a moment, have your moment, but don't have it in my personal space.
Allison, I read that differently. I read that at the point where she suddenly discovered humanity, and so the whole of that scene starts off with her doing the most patronizing sort of, are you ready? Time to get up, and. Just horrible. I just thought, oh, for goodness sake. She was so patronizing, the food reward stuff and everything. And then Lindsay starts to cry, and suddenly, she can't say anything positive because she's not got that sort of vocabulary.
Yeah.
But her body language changes, and she becomes a little bit closer to the sort of mumsy character that I think at heart she wants to be. And I felt there was a point of humanity at that point. That was one of the highlights of this episode for me. And I thought when we entered that scene, I thought, oh, for God's sake, can this get any worse? And then for me, it suddenly started to get better. I warmed to her.
was gonna say, on the one hand, I understand warming to her, and like you said, because I do think that she sees herself, like you said, as the carnal, and she probably is this generally this warm, nurturing type. Except when it comes to Lindsay, I really wish that we had, something in the first episode giving us some kind of a sign as to why these two dislike each other so much, right? Because they really want to have nothing to do with each other. But then, on the other hand, I do feel for Lindsay. Because again, I am one of those people who I am not a big hugger, right? Unless I know you very well, if I'm not in a relationship with you, I didn't give birth to you, and we're not very close friends, I don't want you in my personal space. And so the idea that, I'm supposed, that her way of kind of making peace is insisting on a hug, is just like it shows how she doesn't know how to read people.
Oh, I don't think she does.
Allison?
I don't think she does. But at the same time, I think she was feeling left out because Lindsay was not beyond hugging and sort of snuggling up to the other youngies in this in this tribe. So it's not that Lindsay was particularly conscious about space. It was just her space vis-a-vis Linda,
which is also, I feel, legitimate. Right. I feel like it's one of those things that, we talk about it now in terms of Me Too and everything. But even if there's nothing remotely sexual going on, right, if people don't want to be touched, don't touch them.
Yes, I must say, from my point of view, I have a sort of noli me tangere approach to life anyway. But the circle slightly got the better of me from that point of view. And there was a degree of hugging going on, which was quite pleasant. And I must say, I quite like being hugged.
Oh.
But I find it very difficult to initiate it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When it's forced and it's kind of awkward, it's like, no. I'll hug my cats all the time, 24/7, even when they don't want me to. But I'm gonna do. But you don't do that to me.
Yeah.
I have never tried to hug my cat, but I don't think it would end well.
Oh, one of my cats will take your skin off your face, so I kind of.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I just.
Well, my cats love me, but I've still got little cuts, and yes, I was saying about rugby. Mm-hmm. I was made to play rugby, but because I used to hide, I didn't get hurt. And every so often, when I was given the ball, I realized that the trick was to run incredibly fast so that nobody caught me. And ideally run in the wrong direction so that, take it off the pitch so that then everybody has to line up and throw it back on and say, oh,
I think that's the point, because I think if you just run very fast, and again, I don't really know all the rules of rugby, but if you are fast enough, I guess, to make a touchdown or whatever one calls it, it's fine. But other than that, I think you have the right idea. But otherwise, you're going to get caught. My point is that, but if you're not incredibly fast, then everybody is going to get up to you and everyone's going to jump on you at the same time. So if you run the wrong direction, right, then people just get confused and play stops.
And they say, that's offside, mm-hmm. Stop. And you think, thank God, God has been listening. And it's still snowing. And we were playing in all types of foul weather. I think if we'd been in America and there'd been a hurricane, we would have been playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was to toughen us up. I think it didn't work with me.
I'm just glad that you survived it, because again, I'm not really sure who thinks it's a good idea.
Eventually, they decided to put me on a thing called cross country, which was a 4-mile run, sort of around the outskirts of the school. And I used to walk it with a friend of mine called Paul. And as we got to the end, we used to toss a coin to see who was going to be last. And we generally get back just in time for tea, which is quite nice.
Sorry, I got a cat doing something.
Oh, how lovely! How lovely! A little bit of feline wandering.
Yeah. Just finishing up this.
So, Allison, what do you think? What do you think of all the animals in this season?
Listen, first of all, it's Africa. The driest place they've ever been. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking putting these, and they haven't done it since for a reason. I'm not playing with a bull or anything that has hooves on its head or anything. And spiders, all of that junk. Damn it, they're sleeping in nets. I mean, if I got to sleep in a net, I ain't going. I'm
Well,
sorry.
At least they got the nets. That's the thing.
At
Now,
least-
in more modern Survivor, you don't get a net.
Oh,
You just
you
get
don't-
eaten alive.
The first freaking season of Survivor, Tim, there was a girl that had maggots in a cut in her knee, and they didn't even do anything. They were like, well,
I didn't realize it was as bad as that, but I know she was struggling.
yeah. So it's like now it's a lot. You stump your toe, they got okay, medical, we got a possible ingrown toenail or some shit. But they just, I don't know. I just couldn't. I don't think I could do it in Africa, but I would not be messing with animals, and I'm not messing with fruit in a tree that could be 100 years old, and there's no telling what that's going to do to your intestinal tract in Africa.
And what about the corn? Like, because so you're going to play big. You want to play Big Brother. You've got to be able to eat slop. That cornmeal mush that they're feeding them rather than rice.
What's so wrong with this food that Tom doesn't like it? Because it's just basic. Tom
looks like he's used to eating things with more substance, if you get my drift. Eating oatmeal or grits does not look like something that's on his regular.
Grits is basically oatmeal, isn't it?
Well,
but it's made with corn. So I mean, this probably was pretty close to grits.
It's close, yeah.
I mean, you're the Southerner. Help me here, Allison.
I hate grits. I'll be honest with you. I don't like grits.
Is grits the outside bit of the seed?
Okay, what was that again?
So flour is the inside bit of the seed, and is it the kernel and the husk and all that sort of stuff?
No, grits is made from corn, not from wheat. Right? It's like a corn.
Oh, as in corn on the cob.
Am I right, Allison? That's where grits come from?
Girl, I don't know.
All right, she doesn't like grits.
I don't like grits. I don't eat grits.
I'm sorry.
All right, so we'll leave it.
It's just grits. It's grimy. It's gritty. I mean, it's grits.
It's one of these things. I have friends who are Southerners, and they've tried to feed me grits. They've tried to feed me boiled potatoes, boiled okra, all sorts of things.
What's wrong with boiled potatoes?
No, not boiled potatoes. Boiled peanuts. I misspoke. Boiled potatoes are fine. Boiled peanuts are gross.
Boiled peanuts.
Yes,
I've never had.
You have to pronounce that word. You have to pronounce that word, Karen, so carefully.
Peanuts.
Yes, okay, I got it second time. I was sort of flabbergasted first time.
My co-host for my show, Tyler Lyons, is in the chat.
He's in the chat.
Had a fun
Tyler.
fact. Yes, he had a fun
Tyler,
fact.
hello.
He's got 2 fun facts. He said
Come on.
They had to have security surrounding the camp 24/7 because of wild lions. And Tom still holds the record of weight loss in a single season, 70 pounds.
I've heard 80.
Really?
Yes.
Well, he doesn't look as if he's losing much of that 70 pounds at the moment.
Honey, it's only the 4th episode. Just wait.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I see. So he's going to shrink. I should go on Survivor and
might be able to climb that tree. You'll be up that tree.
I would be up that tree like I was going to say like a donkey. So wrong animal, like a monkey. Yeah. I think.
Or a goat.
I'd be up and down that tree like a goat. Like a professional.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and we had this also bit, we touched on it a bit, but with Silas, trying to bring the tribe together and that whole thing about, getting down on a knee. Like you said, he thinks like he's coaching football. I understand what he was trying to do, but I don't feel like it went over well.
No.
But he's so used to being adored. I mean, he does have the sort of I'm terribly handsome approach to life, don't you think?
Yes.
And clearly, Allison, what you're saying is that's continued post Survivor, which is rather sad.
It is sad because some people seem to think, and I'm not saying this is him, and but there are some people that seem to think because they were on a reality show or they have some kind of celebrity that they can get away with certain things, and people just worship the ground they walk on.
Our president said that if you're famous, they let you do it.
Yeah,
I think your president is wrong, and
of course, but I mean, but
it wouldn't be the first time someone said that, is it? Would it? No.
We got 17 days left. Okay. And then
it's like the countdown after Christmas, the 12 days of Christmas, the 17 days of Trump.
That's right.
But no, I just think having been in that world, I think quite the opposite. You go on the telly and people pay more attention to what you're doing, not less attention. You don't get a license to be bad.
Well, I think because it's been so long since he's been, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. It's been so long since he's been on the show. Like, I think they filmed this 20 years ago.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
When it broke on the news here, whenever something horrible happens, it's on the news. But here in Memphis, they just kept enunciating from Survivor. He was on Survivor. Like, they kept saying it over and over again. Like,
I would love to know what Bible readings he was dealing with when
like,
he sort of
I'm like, Bible study? What? That's crazy.
It sort of mixes up the two things. Religion has so often been an excuse for predatory behavior.
Oh yeah, it's so disturbing.
And so we've now got two examples. So religion and reality TV are both excuses for predatory behavior. This is very disturbing.
Well, because in both cases where you're talking about, it's differences in power dynamics, right? When you have a position where one person has more power.
Oh, Karen, this is why I love these programs. And I love this interaction because we always get down to the kernel of the thing. The problem with reality TV, if there is one, or the problem that reality TV has become, is an abuse of power. And that isn't about one particular individual, it's about the environment.
Yeah.
And if power is being abused, it sort of spreads and everybody's affected by it. And it's pernicious. So today it's not that you just see contestants killing themselves and going into depression. You also see runners, you see producers. The list is endless, and it's not endless. It can be documented. I think we're over 40 deaths at the moment in the industry. And you think in any other industry, you'd stop and you'd say there's something wrong. And yet people seem to think, oh, this is what they've signed up for. They knew about it when they applied. Well, some of us didn't, and I think most of us didn't. But most of us did not know that this is about power and out of control power. That then affects people, and it's as if they've got a disease.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed with reality TV is some people who want to say, oh, I don't care what people think, I don't care what they say about me, they end up being the ones most affected by what has been said about them in social media and stuff, and they have the worst time. Like, they legit have to shut down all their social media accounts to recover, because let me tell you something, man, people are horrible. They'll come after your family, or they are relentless, and it's like, it's just a TV show. There is no need to go after someone's family and stuff like that. It's just,
or their job, or their I mean, and Big Brother is the worst also. And by the way, so this is interesting, Allison. So the Circle in the UK, the first two seasons, now they're filming them in advance and just showing them like a regular show. But the first two seasons, it was similar to Big Brother, that the show is running in real time, and they're editing the episodes and putting them up within like 48 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's on like 4 or 5 times a week. It was like a 3-week show. It's kind of like Celebrity Big Brother. 3-week show.
It was on about five or six times a week. I think there's only one day off.
Right. And same thing. And they had to kind of craft the narrative while it was still happening, which again is something I've always found very, very interesting.
Well, it's brilliant. In terms of the technique. It's so beautifully done. Now, when you come to something like Survivor, you know who's going to win. You know who's going to be going out at the end of this episode. So you tailor your episode according to your knowledge. If you're doing it on the hoof, you don't have that.
Right. We talk about like reading the edit. And now there is even something, Tim, called Educ, where people can actually go through these. It was born much, much later. But we will definitely, when it becomes a relevant thing for us, we will talk about it.
You need
basically, you go, sorry, yes.
No, I was just going to say, Edgic, Tyler Lyons, my co-host,
Yeah.
you need to have him on and talk about Edgic.
So Tyler, we will have
We would
you on.
love to have Tyler.
Obsessed. This guy, oh my God. Yeah. You need to have him on there. Here from when
I'm just reading Tyler's comments here. Jerry got booed off the All Stars reunion stage for suggesting that people need to treat these people like human beings instead of TV characters. It's absolutely true. The only reason they're on TV is because they are attempting to be real. And so you know, they.
Yeah, but just, let's just get back to this edge. I just want to finish my thought though, because so Tim, what it is, and this is something specific for Survivor. I'm not sure if any other show has it, but the point is that it's gotten so formulaic that if you watch an episode now and you know what to look for, they take each character in each episode and they basically rate their visibility, whether they're positive or negative, and many other. It's very, very complicated, but they're very, very good at predicting the winner. Right. And often within a few episodes, you have your winners list is very, very short. Right.
Well, I realized today there's only one person I want to win in this program. And last week, I realized I was missing Ethan. And this week I had a little taste of Ethan and I thought, oh, the whole program seems nice again. I like Ethan. Fundamentally, I like Ethan. And I don't like Silas. And there's a point where the two boys are trying to do the same job. Ethan does it with a certain amount of charm, and Silas does it like a sort of out of control tractor, and it's disturbing. And then you've got the sidekicks, Brandon, and I think Tom is a sidekick. And one of my problems is older Kim in Buran.
Yeah, so let's get to that. So the next one is the reward challenge.
She's a character. Lindsay, who goes off today, is Lindsay's interesting, and Linda, who goes off today, is a character. But I'm afraid a lot of the younger girls are interchangeable. And I don't know whether I'm making a sort of misogynistic observation here, but I have to check every single time the camera hovers on one of them. I have to check who they are.
No, you're not wrong. Kelly and Lindsay.
It's always forgettable. There's always forgettable.
But why?
Kelly and Lindsay are physically similar, and we don't see much from either of them, and especially Kelly. Right. The only thing we know is
Karen, I don't think it's about being physically similar. You see, if you go back to the whole this is about character animation. This is what Disney discovered in 1936 or something with the Three Little Pigs. I don't want to make too much of a comparison between these girls and Three Little Pigs, but the three little pigs are interchangeable physically. But what makes them different is the way the Disney animators give them different movements and gives them different personality. And my problem with these, with the majority of these girls and the majority of the younger people in Survival, is that they're pretty well indistinguishable. They don't seem to have any motivation beyond the motivation they're told to say, oh, I really want the money. Oh, who cares? For God's sake, that's the MacGuffin. It's not important. It may be important to you. It's not important to us watching this. We're interested in the development of your character. If you have no character, go off to another program. Do University Challenge or something.
Honey, that doesn't change in 20 years. Trust me.
Yep.
Hey, Allison, you're making me a little bit depressed, but at the same time, you
I do that to men. I'm sorry. That affects on the opposite sex.
You're a married lady again now, so you can don't worry.
It's true.
Allison just got married.
Oh,
on Halloween, Tim. On Halloween, I got married on Halloween.
How lovely! Did you dress for the occasion?
I wore a maroon dress
Oh, gorgeous.
And I had a black bouquet of flowers.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
And I had to get married at my house because of COVID.
Oh God, how many guests were you allowed to have?
We had about 10 people, but
that's okay.
we all kept spread out
in different rooms.
Yeah, we were all over the place. Yeah, I mean, it was like, and right after 5 of them left, they just wanted to see it, so it was just immediate after that. So
I watched it on video.
Thanks.
Well, look, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
And it's kind of, so my wedding wasn't quite that small, but we got married at a gym that was like 3 houses down from where we lived, and just basically, decorated it with streamers and, very, like, same thing, very cheap, low key wedding. And I kind of, sometimes those can be the best ones.
Oh yeah. It's not, to me, I've never been into huge like weddings or anything like that. It's just, it's more important just to, like, I want to invite relatives that I see never, unless you're going to bring me a gift.
Did you get nice gifts?
I actually didn't want any gifts. I said, y'all being here is a gift. My son gave me away. It was just happy. I was just so happy to see certain people I hadn't seen in a long time. And that was it. And everybody got tested for COVID. So it was, because my mother is in her 70s and my mother-in-law is in their 70s. And I wanted to make sure nobody killed anybody.
Absolutely.
Your list of priorities for your wedding. Number one, don't kill, and I do worry about some of these people who have these big weddings, because again, like, who wants to remember that you go through your wedding album and yell like, oh, she got sick and he died. And like, who wants that?
Well, I'm afraid that
Tim, if we're friends,
story.
Yeah, if are we friends on Facebook, Tim?
Well, I hope we are. Are we?
He doesn't use Facebook all that much. He uses Twitter and especially Instagram the most.
What are you?
But we can be.
I will give you all of his contact.
Yeah, I'm not sure what my Facebook links are. I've ended up with 2 Facebook accounts, and I don't know how to interchange them. And now my Instagram has linked to my Facebook. And I think, which Facebook? It's like when banks ask me for my mother's maiden name, and I say, which mother? And they think I'm crazy. and I say, well, I can't be the only person in the world to have had 2 mothers. And I don't know.
I've had multiple fathers.
There you are. There you are. Yeah.
Stepmoms.
In my case, one was my birth mother, and the other one was the woman who raised me.
Right.
And I never quite know which one I was thinking of when I was asked your mother's maiden name, and I think, which one?
I have my 2 fathers. I have my dad who raised me, and my father who created me. Yes. So I refer to my father as my father, and my dad is my stepdad, but I refer to him as my dad. Like, that's
I've always referred to my mother as the person who raised me.
Yeah.
And my birth mother, who came along a little bit later, I mean, technically in a temporal way, she came along first, but she didn't seem terribly interested, and I was premature, so I didn't stay long with her. And I was born as a result of a liaison on the back of a motorbike, and she had a motorbike crash, and then out I popped. And I spent. She thought I was 3 months premature.
You were conceived on the back of a motorbike?
No, I think the conception happened early. I don't know how that takes place. I'm not in the heterosexual camp,
right.
So I. After we finish Survivor, you'll have to give me some lessons on that, Karen. But I actually, what is extraordinary is because the subject I teach, when I have to do it in schools, is religion and sort of ethics and that sort of stuff. I'm often put into classes and told to do sex education. I think, you've got the wrong person here. I hardly know one end of the stick of broccoli from the other. And you just think, what is going on? What is going on? The children know so much more.
It would be lovely, though, to make a video of, like, Tim explains the facts of life. Good show.
I would be down.
Well, I
do a
was
show about it. I'll help you.
I was sent into one of these lessons with a I was sent into one of these lessons with a banana, and I thought, what am I supposed to do with this? So I ate it.
No, like you didn't eat the banana. Like I thought it was a snack.
Snack.
So you know, if you were a lesbian, at least that would make a certain amount of sense, right? So back to Survivor.
Well, you know, there are just some places I think academically I don't particularly want to go, and
good call. Good call.
And I think, you know, it's fine. It's fine. And
wait, but Tim, when you do this though, when you explain the facts of life, you know, to an 8-year-old, you have to do it as Mrs. Doubtfire. He does a wonderful Mrs. Doubtfire impression.
Oh dear.
God, are you serious?
Yes.
I'd be delighted to do that. And when I finish with that, I would do Captain, my Captain. Oh, dear, I think this little bit goes in here. And and that's how we got the Brontosaurus.
This is more fun than the reward challenge anyway. No, they had a reward challenge. It's for spices.
Oh no, wait, there are some bits I just wanted to. I've got a few notes, and I
okay.
Really
Let's talk about the reward challenge.
No, I wanted to go back a little bit further than that. This is some language which I thought was very interesting for a Brit, and it was seriously pumped, which strikes me as slightly rude. But I think it's Silas talking about this.
Yeah. So that phrase means something different in the UK, because I
don't think it means anything in the UK particularly. But I think it means sort of beefed up, doesn't it? But
seriously pumped, I think just like being excited.
I'm seriously pumped up for this. Like,
oh, right. So it is basically the same meaning. Okay, so that's fine. And then this thing about Linda and her patronizing voice getting everybody up for the challenge, and all these teenagers struggling to get up. I've always had difficulty with this. I think what they actually need is a little bit of life in a monastery. Now, that cured me. Because when I was a monk, this is one of those wonderful lines you can wheel out at any time, and you generally get attention. When I was a monk, I found there was a wonderful solution to early morning. So there were 3 bells. There was a bell at 5 o'clock, 5:25, and then 5:30. By 5:30, we had to be in the church.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And no, 5 o'clock, you get the bell.
Remind me to never become a monk.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. And so 5 o'clock, you got this bell. 5:25, you got a second bell, which is a 5-minute bell for church. Now, I found the solution was so easy. You hear the first bell. At the second bell, you get up. You don't get up at the first bell and then start sort of moping around for a cup of coffee. You get up at the second bell, 5 minutes to go. You slip on your black sort of habit over the top of your pajamas. You whip down the stairs. You wheel into the back of church and kneel down behind everybody else. And nobody notices you've still got your pajamas on. And then after that, you can sneak back to bed. The other people call that meditation. I just did it upstairs. And
my son had made a similar discovery, but he took it even further. He had to be at school, again for prayer, but they were pretty strict that you did have to show up. So he had to be there at 7:30. So he would set an alarm for 7:25. He would sleep in his clothes.
Yes,
pack
that's
his bag. All he had to put on was his shoes and run out the door.
Yep. Brilliant boy. Cut from the same cloth. I understand him. Now, the point is that in that 5 minutes, you have to look awake. And the whole thing fails if you go to, I've got to have my morning coffee, all that sort of crap. Out of the window. 5 minutes, and you get an extra 25 minutes in bed. Now, who's going to complain about that? These children have not learnt that that basic life experience. And if you don't learn it at the right point, you go through the rest of your life saying, I'm going to have my morning coffee. I mean, I can do a 2-minute, I can do a 2-hour night and still look as if I'm awake in the morning.
But Tim, but you should be then team young'uns, right? Because they're the ones who understand the importance of sleep, right? Frank seems to think that you can wake these people up, like I said. And so later in the episode, he wakes them up. It's not even dawn yet.
I agree, and I would say, what a brilliant thing to do. You do your work when it's dark, when it's not so hot, when you can move around and actually do your work. Of course, you have to be careful of the wild animals at that
Maybe
time.
I should tell you now, just like if we're going to travel together, or whatever. Don't wake me up ever. You will not like me.
No, I don't wake anybody up ever. I think you wake yourself up. The one thing I hate more than anything else is somebody striding into the room saying, let's open the curtains. And look, let me do it in my own way, because I can do it faster than you.
Yeah, don't touch my curtains. Don't
touch my curtains. You know,
it's one of the reasons that I will never apply for a show, is just because if I don't eat and I don't sleep and I don't have, my balance between, I need my social time and I need my alone time. If I got all that set up, I'm a reasonably normal person that you might want to have me around.
You're a creature of habit. That's the problem. You can't take on somebody else's habits. I was very comfortable with that. I woke up hours before they wanted me to get up in the circle. So I was forced to remain in bed, which struck me as perfectly fine. I'm just going to lie here and sing through one musical after another. Let's start with My Fair Lady today. Tomorrow we're doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. The next day we'll be doing Zorba
I'm surprised
or something.
We didn't see any of that then. I'm surprised that didn't make
it was all copyrighted.
Yeah,
you know when you've done something slightly naughty, just break into a show tune so they can't use it.
I was going to say, on Survivor and Big Brother, they tell them to not sing for that reason. So nobody told you to not sing when they were filming you. I guess they just figured they had
the lights off. They had the lights off, and they all gathered in the gallery to listen to my to my run through of these musicals. And we had nearly 4 weeks, or maybe we did have 4 weeks. So they had however many musicals you get in 4 weeks. What's 4 times 7? God knows.
28.
I don't know.
28. Is that 28?
Yes. I used to teach standardized tests, SATs, all that. I know how to do all of that quickly in my head.
Maths is not maths, or you would call it math. It's
math.
Not my subject.
Yeah, why is math plural in the UK? I've never understood that. They call it math.
We had it first, I said, because mathematics has got an S on the end.
Okay. All right.
And unless you're doing the Greek, which I would much prefer, mathematica. But no, it's I don't know where you got the math from. It sounds like something you start sort of drug pushing with, isn't it? I'm going to give you some math.
That's your gateway drug. So if you start then with maths, then what do you get into? When you really get serious, then you get into physics, or what is the next step up from maths?
Further maths.
No end
and possibly econometrics or something, or
statistics, perhaps calculus.
Statistics, calculus. But we teach maths in such a strange way in the West. In Russia, they do it all. They do so much stuff at a different rate, and in a different order. And I think their maths is much better. So I think we bore a lot of our students by not giving them the reason for doing things, by letting them do it first. Whereas in Russia, they force them. This is why you do this, and and then they learn, and that works. If I'd had that sort of teaching when I was a child, I would be a maths whiz now, I'm sure. And I would beat people in chess. As it is, I just sit and grin maniacally and lose.
You'll have to play. You'll teach me to play chess, Tim, because
no. I might. I'll teach you how to win chess, because everybody wins against me.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I've got to cut out of here.
All right.
No.
Allison is in the middle of her work day.
My lunch is over, and
I've got
really? All right.
4 calls. I
have to let you go. So tell people where they can find you. Obviously, on My Weekly Meltdown on YouTube.
Yes, My Weekly Meltdown on YouTube, My Weekly Meltdown on Instagram. I need to update that. I never do.
Allison, we will have to contact.
Yes. I'm on Instagram, the.memphis.darling, and my cats are kelly.cat.drama, Kelly Cat Drama.
Yes. Wonderful.
But yes, and I'm on Twitter at Summers, SOMMERS 1977, but I just only advertise my show on
Twitter,
that.
I think that's all Twitter is, you know.
Yeah, I don't really, but I hate having to cut out. My phone just decided to go nuts while I was doing this show.
Some people actually have these annoying jobs that they have to be at in the middle of a weekday, so we completely understand.
Yeah. But yes, let's keep in touch, and I want to come back on and do this again.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Yes,
We might be able to get through an entire episode next time.
Thank you so much, Allison.
Okay, I'll be in touch. Thank you, guys.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So we're going to continue à deux.
We will continue à deux, right.
And now, strangely, we're going to talk about the program, I fear.
Right now that she's gone. But that's what tends to happen.
Isn't that naughty of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got reward. So we got a reward challenge. They got spices. Kim J is slow. Is there anything there that we need to discuss?
No, except Lindsay's. I think it all comes just after this, where Lindsay comes out with lines like "I'm a walking mistake," and she tears up, and you just
that was in the Bible Council. Yeah.
This is the point at which I felt humanity hits this series, and up to this point, I'd been getting really frustrated. I wasn't sure why, and it's because I hadn't really seen any humanity. What I'd seen was sort of spitefulness and nastiness.
Yeah, no, you're right. Vulnerability.
Obsession with the prize, which is, as you know, I don't consider terribly interesting. I thought the challenge, that first challenge, initially I thought, oh my goodness, it looks like a sort of pinball wizard machine, and I expected to hear sort of strains of Tommy, but then it turned into something really very interesting, and it was so close. I was actually very slightly excited, not in a Genesis 38 way, but I was quite excited, and I thought, ooh, this is an interesting challenge, maybe because it was so close.
Yeah, it is a fun challenge again, and it proves that you don't need to have an enormous budget. And they're doing a little bit better about us being able to follow the action, but Probst is still not doing kind of the play-by-play, right? We get the suspenseful music, but what we don't have is somebody telling us, this person's doing this.
We do need that. That is the point where we need narrative comment.
Yeah, and like I said, and they will, and fairly soon. I don't remember exactly in which season this starts, but it's not long before they realize that is the one thing that they are missing.
Because what they're actually saying at the moment is that the games don't matter to us. The games are for the players, not for the viewers, and they're right.
Oh, I know Survivor fans who don't even really watch the challenges because that just doesn't interest them. Right. They're interested in the strategy and the interactions and the characters, and they don't really need to watch people run around. Well,
that's all I'm interested in, but I'm not terribly interested in the strategy. I'm interested in the development of characters. And this is the first time we've actually seen character development.
And I think you're right. What we're missing, I feel like you said, is vulnerability. Because even with the previous...
I would like the cameras to have been on Linda and Lindsay longer, because I felt that whether that was resolved or not resolved, where that went to afterwards was more interesting than a lot of the guff that we got. Was it that Linda couldn't deal with that sort of adversarial thing? Was it she didn't want to? Who walked away first? I didn't see that. It was as if the producers thought, the average Survivor watcher isn't going to be interested in this. They're going to be interested in whether in who's more likely to get the $1 million. I think it's production has misunderstood what their job is. Their job is to engage with characters. That's what reality TV is about. And this is trying to very early on in the game trying to redefine what reality TV is. And this may be why we have such difficulty defining what reality TV is, because it's been hijacked by game shows.
Well, reality.
We've had game shows for a long time.
Because reality TV is not just one thing, right? And these competitive shows, right, are based, grow out of the tradition of game shows. Because we're not even talking about like non-competitive reality where you basically just follow people around with a camera. That's they're both considered to be reality. Finally, fortunately, in the US, in the Emmys, they finally split those into two different categories, because you really can't compare Survivor to, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They're both reality TV, but they're completely different shows.
Yeah, but the Kardashians are already famous, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. But it's still considered to be reality TV.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just very so the sort of laws which you're getting about looking after reality TV stars, that doesn't apply really when you're talking about the Kardashians.
Yeah, no, right, you're right. And even like we were talking about RuPaul, I feel like one of the differences, all of the people on RuPaul are already professional entertainers.
So are most of the people on a lot of the TV shows which claim that these are ordinary people. The X Factor, Dancing with the Stars.
Right. But again, on a show like The Scribe or The Circle, less so. And there are some recruits, but basically most of the people are, in theory, not supposed to be well known to the general public. And like I said, there are exceptions. We call that
the conceit of this, or the lie which is perpetuated. Somebody was telling me a story the other day about one of these shows hosted by Simon Cowell. I don't know whether it was X Factor or what it was, and in the show, he was at the show, so he was in the theatre watching the real thing, and there was an act. I don't know what the act was, and the panelists said, that was dreadful, that was awful. If this is the best you can do, why did you apply to be on the show? And the person said, well, I didn't apply. I was telephoned and asked to be, and they edited the show. They edited it. So Simon Cowell says, why did you apply? And then you get a look from the contestant, and that's it. And this is deceit. This is perpetuating the deceit that all these people who you see on the telly, in the reality TV shows, are ordinary people. It simply isn't true. The majority of those people that you see on the telly, in these reality TV shows, have already got some access to performance.
So that may be true in the UK, or again, especially now. And there are certain shows, obviously, the celebrity shows, like we've spoken about this, the several celebrity.
And I'm sure it's true in the States as well. It's just,
again, having known a lot of people who have been on a lot of shows now, the vast majority of them, again, and Johnny was an exception, right? But most of these people did not have any kind of a public facing role before. And even ones who were recruited, like, Johnny was recruited, right? He did not send in an application, but he was a professional entertainer.
Yes. Well, that sort of proves the point in some way.
Yeah. Oh, there's the next thing here. I want to just flag something that I feel like it was one of these offhand comments that a lot of people may not have picked up on, but I found really interesting. So they come back from the reward challenge and they've got their rice and they've got their soup mix, and hopefully that will make this corn gruel more palatable. And then Kim says something about so they were talking about we kind of skipped over this, but they basically ran out of water before the challenge. So the younger people decided to sleep in. Then by the time they got the tree mail saying that the challenge is in half an hour, they didn't have time to go to the watering hole, right? So that then they got a bit dehydrated and they had to go afterward. And then also their pots fell apart. So how are they going to boil water?
How are these pots falling apart? I don't understand this. And
I am assuming that these are the kind of pots that are used by the people in that area.
Yeah. Well, why are they?
And I assume that they don't last. I mean, they're not made of stainless steel, right? You make them and they fall apart, and you patch them and you patch them and patch them, and then you make a new one. What? They're showing them doing something with that, right? Maybe when it's warm, or I don't understand African cooking vessels, but it does seem that they can kind of patch it. And I guess if it leaks, there are ways to patch it until it gets to the point where it's just unusable. But against the background of all of that, so Kim says something very interesting. They're talking about the fact that this happened, and Frank is, this is what happens when you let these young ones make the decisions. And Kim says very quietly, she says, Frank and Doc their job, Frank and Doc's job was to get water. Our job was to work on the split in the tribe. Right.
Yes,
So Kim was there to play a social game. Right. And again, this is Survivor season 3. There are not that many people who seem to be especially explicitly aware of this. Right. That her best, she's less worried about things like water. Right. And the elements, and more interested in, she understands that the way you win this game is not by having enough water. You win this game by, finding a group of 4 that will stick together.
Yes.
Again, not such a big deal, but again, it's something that it's not. I
well,
had not.
4 people who stick together and don't have water, they're not going to stick together for very long, are they?
Fair enough. But I do think that they would eventually, even if Frank was not there, that eventually that even these people would have figured it out that you do need to prepare water and get up early enough to do it. And all. Again, these people they are adults. They are not stupid. I am assuming that they would have figured it out. But again, their priorities will still be different because again, Frank is not playing a social game. Frank is alienating people. He knows he's alienating people, and he doesn't seem to much care.
Yeah. I think he's played a very poor game. It's only a matter of time before he goes. The whole thing. If I were a producer at this moment, I think I said this in the last show, and I'm rather surprised something didn't happen now. But if I were a producer, I would shake the whole thing up because this is becoming dull. And
funny you should say that.
And
it's possible. Not to spoil anything, but you might be pleasantly surprised next week. Well, and they showed it actually in the coming on. Did you see that? Okay,
I did. Yes, they're going to do something which is dramatic in the first 15 minutes. So I could predict what that would be, but I don't think that's going to solve the problem because
what are you predicting? What are you predicting?
They're going to move people from one tribe to the other.
Okay, you think that won't help?
No, it will help with the confusion, but they've already done that, you see, and that's where the problem occurred. So they put people who were incompatible together in one tribe, in the Samburu tribe, and then they're wondering why that doesn't work. So they're going to take people from the Samburu tribe and put them in the other tribe, and it's still not going to work because they've already got a taste of being ill-fitting. They're going to ill-fit wherever they are now. This is the problem. Bad apples are bad apples, and it's really sad.
You're saying these characters, some of these characters are not jumping off the page, and you don't think that moving them around is going to help?
No, that's the first point. The second point is these characters, if they've been in a tribe where they would coalesce, they would work. That's not going to happen now. They've already been they're soiled goods. This is the problem. So I don't see anybody from Samburu winning. Brandon is the most affable of the lot. I signaled him out right at the beginning, but even in today's episodes, these are my friends, and he sort of he sounds like Jesus on a bad day, but it's just sort of and he even has the look heavenwards. These are my friends. What's his name? Powell, whatever his name was, who played in Jesus of Nazareth. I'm surprised he wasn't approached to do some sort of biblical tale because he's got the look, and it's just sort of wet. It just comes across as wet.
Yeah, you're saying Brandon would make a good Jesus. I can see that.
Yeah, but I'm afraid the problem is that he just comes across as limp, wet, and a bit sort of lead, and it's a little bit disturbing. I would like to see my reality TV stars with a little bit more drive.
I thought that you were liking the season a little bit better. It sounds like it's slightly improved, but you're still a lot of people like. Again, like I guess I really disagree with you, like with Big Tom. Yes, I mean in terms of his place in the tribe, he's kind of a sidekick, but
for example, if you put Brandon into Buran, then Ethan would look after him, and Brandon would be looking up to Ethan, and then I think we'd have the right sort of relationship.
It's actually funny that you're talking about this, because the way that they divide the tribes obviously is important. And one of the things that I've heard, I think this was in Mario's book, right? Mario Lanza's book, which we talked about many times when it was worth playing for, that apparently originally Teresa was on Boran and Diane was supposed to be on Samburu.
Right.
And they switched it at the last minute. I'm not exactly sure why, but again, the entire season would look different,
yes.
right? Or could look different, because let's say Teresa,
yes.
Teabag, right, as we called her last week, she would have been gone in the first episode, possibly, right?
Yes,
and Diane would be happily ensconced on Boran. So yeah, of course, you can always play, what if. But it would be, even if you switch even two characters, it becomes a completely different show. I mean, you're definitely right about that.
But all the interesting characters are developing in Buran, and what we're getting is a sort of.
Well, I mean, you had Lindsay, you had Linda,
niggledy sort of atmosphere in Samburu, and it's just self-destructive.
Is it also possible that, again, just the vibe is very different, right? In Boran, they all seem to be getting along well, right? You see real, relationships forming. Whereas in Samburu, they're basically sniping at each other.
They were allowed to form. Whereas, Samburu was designed to be dysfunctional. And if I were sort of a producer here, I would probably take one person from Samburu. It probably couldn't be Brandon, because he's probably one of the few positive characters in Samburu. It would probably, and if I took Silas and put him in Buran, he'd destroy Buran. It would probably have to be, I don't know who it would be.
Well, it will be interesting. So again, since you've already flagged it, I will spoil on yes that next week it is going to be the first tribe swap in Survivor. They are going to shuffle these people around, and then.
Well, my suspicion is that they will try and shuffle quite a lot of people around, which is going to be a disaster.
It's basically and I don't even remember. I have not rewatched this episode yet, but generally when they do these tribe swaps, it's random. It's right. The producers are not, sticking their fingers in and reconstituting the tribes. Generally, there have been times where it's been a schoolyard pick, it's been different things, but but in most cases in Survivor, it is simply random. Which does mean that, the producers do give up a lot of control, right? Because you don't know who's going to end up where.
Oh no, I don't think the producers ever give up control.
You don't think that my understanding again is that it is random, right? They pick, what they will normally do is there will be buffs, right? That will be wrapped up in paper or whatever, and you have to choose one or something of those.
Oh, that's not random. Have you noticed? Have you noticed when Probst reads out the names at the end, and he pulls them out of this jar? They always come out in a particular order.
Oh, of course, they've never tried to hide that. Of course, they when Jeff takes the urn, they go off to quote unquote count the votes. They are counting, but they're also deciding which ones to show and in which order. Whereas in terms of the tribe swaps, again, I have never been on the show, but Johnny has been, many other people I know have been. They do all seem to believe that the swaps are in fact random.
Well, that's the point. They believe. And when I go to a magic show, I believe as well.
So the next time we will of course have Johnny on again for whatever,
and I will challenge him. He will say it's genuine. It's genuine. I'm sure it's genuine, and I will say, fine, believe what you wish. Okay. If you want to believe that, let me not destroy your.
I just think it's so funny that you're even more cynical than we are. I mean, because we are at NSFW. On the one hand, we love reality TV. On the other hand, we are deeply cynical, but we are not even as cynical as you are.
I'm only cynical because I've been there. Number one, and number two, because I love magic. I love all forms of theatre, and I've been in various things which have been a bit sort of amateurish, and part of the amateur thing is, let's have a surprise at the end. Well, I don't want a surprise. I'm happy to manufacture the illusion of surprise, I don't want a surprise.
Right.
But is everything all right?
1 second.
Oh,
Okay. I just realized that sorry, I'm away from my mic. I just realized that my computer was not plugged in and it was about to go to sleep.
oh my God! Oh my God! No, that's
No, it's
awful.
okay.
That's awful.
We're back on. We are
But
back.
so professionalism is about being in control of the medium. So the one person who should be in complete control is the person who is performing for you. The surprise should be on the part of the viewer, not the people on the show. One of the things which always irritates me about amateur theatricals is people will say, well, I hope you enjoyed it. If I'm performing, I don't enjoy it. That's not the aim. The aim is that you enjoy it. Like a very good prostitute. We're not asking her, we're not her or him to enjoy it. We're asking them to collect the money. We're hoping that you enjoy it. This is how I see myself. I see myself as an artistic prostitute. If I get some entertainment from that, great. But the main purpose of the show is that the viewer enjoys the experience, and that should be true of reality TV as well. So one of the things which I found producers were saying to me, particularly in the aftermath of The Circle, they sort of run out of things saying, well, I hope you enjoyed it. And that's irrelevant. As a matter of fact, I did, but it's irrelevant. Whether I enjoyed it or not is not the purpose of the
well, again, because
experience.
You are an entertainer and you enjoy theater and you see this again as another form of theater, you're not wrong, right? And like I said, so therefore you're directed at the audience. Whereas I think most people do decide to do, most things in life, and certainly something like reality TV, right? Why do you do it? Well, because there's a possibility of winning money, but also because you think it will be fun. But also because you think it will be fun.
No, both of those things I think are completely wrong. You do it because you are an entertainer. You do it because, and the money is the MacGuffin, the Hitchcock reason for doing it, which no one takes that seriously.
But of all the people, but there's 16 people in this cast, right? In Survivor Africa, how many of those people, if any, see their main goal as to make entertainment?
Well, I wish all of them did, because they would make better entertainment. But I'm afraid the casting process has chipped away at that to such an extent that no longer exists, and I'm afraid that's what's made this program limp along to this particular point. So we're in episode 4 before we have our first hint of humanity. And that's not even dwelt
upon. This is a 19-year-old season of Survivor, and I do think that they become more aware of it. And I think also the participants become more aware of the fact that they are, in fact, making a television show.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. But I think at the moment they've started to believe their own fantasy, which is that it's all about the money, and it's not. It's all about the interaction of the characters. It's all about the vulnerability of the characters. The buffalo scene.
Yeah, so let's get to that, right? They see, but that might have been a wildebeest. I found something very interesting about these, though, because
wildebeest. It is wildebeest.
I'm guessing some sort of a buffalo. They didn't actually identify it, but apparently, whatever it was, apparently this is the most dangerous animal in Africa, even more than a lion or a tiger. It didn't look
that dangerous. It looked quite cute.
No, but the reason is apparently that is the one animal that will charge you, even if you are not doing anything threatening to it. If you see a lion or an elephant or a tiger or whatever, just don't advance, just stand there, and they will wander off. Whereas apparently with these things, that they will attack you, even if you are just standing there.
So there was somebody there, presumably with a gun ready.
Yeah, like I said, there are people with guns surrounding the boma, and I'm assuming also that when they go off to get water or anything else, that there is somebody, just like there are, cameramen and mic, sound people and all those people just off camera. So are people. Yes, they are being protected, but it's still scary. And again, I could be wrong. Maybe they do not have people with them during the day. Maybe they decided that only at night that it's real. That as long as you behave properly and you don't approach it directly or, doing anything that it makes it think that you're prey. I really don't know the answer to that. Again, I should have asked Mario. I know that at night that boma is surrounded by people with guns. And I have to believe that
Tyler is saying on here that they also have people with guns.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think,
Tyler, I will defer to your superior knowledge because that does make sense. We don't even really see how they get out of it. We just see them being scared, and then they cut away to something else. Then the next morning, Frank has had enough of letting the young people make the rules, right? He wakes everybody up before it's even sunrise, and he says, I feel obligated to Linda and T-Bird, right? They should have enough water. I think it's also, it's nice to say that, but I think it's also just that Frank likes things done being properly.
He's just being difficult, I think.
Right, he's being frank, right? There's a right way and Frank is a military man. Okay, that means there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And if you want to do the wrong thing, then why should he listen to you or pay you any heed?
Have you noticed something fascinating about Samburu?
Okay, what?
That everybody in that tribe is miserable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just. And I don't think that makes good TV. I don't want to look at a program where everybody is miserable. If I want to do that, I go up to the bathroom, I go up to the loo and stick my head in the loo and watch and flush. And that would be more entertaining than watching lots of people.
It's funny
being
you
miserable.
say that because I wonder whether that reward that when Boran won the water. Right, that really, was a big moment for them because apparently this is, a large percentage of just the work that they must do every day is you have to, in every season of Survivor, right? Obviously, you have to go to the well and get water, but in Africa, right, it seems to be quite a long hike. It's very hot. You have to bring it back in these pots, like I said, and it looks and smells like elephant dung. I'm sure it would wear you down. Whereas at Boran, right, because they have 100 gallons of clean water, and I'm assuming nobody wasted any of it on the shampoo, right?
No.
That they have much more leisure time, and they're much less tired, and they're much less stressed, and they're making better TV. So I don't know to what extent, but I think that might be part of the issue.
That may be the case.
And then also the fact that they're not getting along. Because I
was going to say, of course, if I had my head down the loo and I was watching water flushing, I would have access to more water than both Samburu and Boran.
But I'm sorry that this season is sometimes making you feel like you would rather just stick your head in the loo. Look, there will be seasons, Tim. There will be seasons of Survivor where that is the predominant reaction. Right, but that will be far off in the future.
I was so looking forward to sort of saying something about teabag in today's thing, but she doesn't. She only had one comment as a little gnomic utterance, as opposed to something interesting. But I was, but it was Linda who sort of dominated today, and she sort of
well, it always is true that whichever tribe goes to tribal council always gets more airtime. Besides that one act after the immunity challenge, just in general, they tend to focus more on the tribes that will end up going to tribal council. That always is the case. So if you have somebody like Teabag, sorry, Teresa, that she's just not going to get a whole lot of airtime unless she really does.
But that is the tribe that goes to tribal council, isn't it?
You're right. Never mind. See, it took me an hour and a half to say something stupid today. Usually, it happens in the first few minutes.
No. And you're quite right. The focus is on the.
But she's just not a huge character, especially at this point in the season.
But I just wish that somebody who was editing this had realized, that I was here and that I was looking for sort of more. I was looking for the character driven rather than the Jeff Probst driven plot, and I'm not really interested in Jeff. I must say, the more I see him, the less I want to, and the more I want to see other people filling that screen time. He just sort of irritates me. But there have been people in the past who irritated me who, within an episode or two, I think are the next best thing since God. And I can spin on a dime like a London taxi.
You know, I'm glad that we're not completely giving up on Africa yet, because by the way, this is a season that, you know, has kind of divided the fandom. There are some people who really don't like it. Yes, well, that's true of almost every Survivor season.
Is that for the same sort of reasons that I'm citing, or is it for different reasons?
Some same, some different. You know, when we look back at the whole season, that's the kind of thing I can't really talk about too much without spoiling you. But yes, but even as Survivor seasons go,
don't you detest those people who are so constantly coming out with the sort of homely wisdom like Linda? I just think if they're doing it, why don't sit down and write a book of it? You know, the collected wisdom of Linda.
Mm-hmm. I think that is kind of what she was doing, right? With all of her talk of Mother Africa.
Yeah, she's got all Mother Africa and all that sort of rubbish.
No, but on the one hand, I understand it's rubbish, but on the other hand, I did feel. Oh, by the way, the fun fact with Linda, after she is sent home, rather than going on, they still do this now. When they get to the jury, you know, when it starts, the jury is going to start. Then all of the people who are already have been voted off, right? They have been at, you know, a place they now call Ponderosa. They now take them on a trip, right? They don't just, you know, leave them, you know, lying around, because, you know, Diane would be there for 36 days, you know, just waiting around for the game to end. So they send them on a trip, or normally, you know, in a different country far away where they don't think anybody's going to be recognized. Linda, I do not remember where that trip was, but Linda did not join that trip. Linda stayed in Africa to volunteer. Apparently she participated in some kind of a circumcision event, and, you know, thought this was like one of the most amazing things she's ever seen in her life. But again, at least my point is Linda is consistent. Linda
that was really male, not female, I take it.
Yeah, I don't think they were talking. Well, I'm assuming they weren't talking about female circumcision. That would be kind of horrible.
Disturbing.
But in any case, the point is that at least Linda does walk the walk. It doesn't just talk the talk. She really does love Africa, know a lot about Africa, is very aware that she's in Africa. Right.
You see, I after the encounter with Lindsay, I would have kept Linda. If I'd been a producer, I would have made sure she stayed, because I would have wanted to see this new Linda emerge. But no, we just get the slightest hint that she has humanity, and then she's off, as if the program is not interested in that.
I hear you.
That's what worries me.
I hear you. Don't completely agree on all of it, but I hear you.
Yeah.
So now we get to the immunity challenge. Can I just say,
I've got written down here, just so I can keep saying it. Distrust Silas.
Mm-hmm.
There we are. And then I like Ethan. I just thought it'd be nice to say that, just to keep recognizing it.
I like Ethan too. Ethan will have a wonderful moment in a future episode, and you will understand. You will know instantly what I'm referring to and why I like Ethan so much.
Right. Okay.
But yes, he seems like a good dude. So we get to the immunity challenge. And so this idea is, you know, people are nomadic, right? They have to move their homes from place to place. So you have to relocate.
Oh, I liked this. I liked it.
I'll tell you why I would have liked it better. They do something very similar to this on The Amazing Race, right? Which is another one of these CBS reality TV shows, where you have teams of two and they travel around the world. And they have done this several times, where you have to recreate. It will be something, you know, that's relevant to the location wherever they are, and you have to copy it. But the thing is, there would be much, much more detail, and it will be devilishly hard to get all of it right.
Yes. And we didn't really see any.
We didn't really see that. Like, we had the architects who had to remember where everything was, but come on, it's a hut. It has a roof, right? There were a few things inside.
I find anybody posing as an architect, I think sort of the shadow of masonry is lurking somewhere.
No, but I'm saying that's how
the great architect on the hill.
But that would have made it, I feel like, much more interesting if there would have been a significant chance that they think they are finished, and then it's like, nope, you know, you haven't done it right. Go back.
I was looking forward to that, and we didn't have any sort of analysis. You've got your door in the wrong position.
Right.
But that would have been much more fun. But we didn't have any sort of any analysis afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. So Boron wins, and somebody from Samburu is going to go home. And we understand. That's why I was so interested to hear that you said you thought it was going to be Silas.
Oh, well, I'll
Because
tell
to
you
me,
why I
was
thought it was
pretty
going to be
obvious that it was
Silas.
going to be someone of the three rather than the four.
I'll tell you why I thought it was going to be Silas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one line. He says, "I'm shooting for the stars. I'm going to get there." Now, that to me was one of the biggest statements of hubris that I have seen in modern television. It could come straight out of Greek tragedy. And within sort of 5 minutes, I was thinking, yeah, he's going to be going. But no,
it's funny
he
you
wasn't.
say that. So again, I just look at the structure here, and it just didn't make sense to me from a game perspective that those four are going to break up anytime soon. But I see it as a larger thing. We talk about the winner quote, and this is almost like the anti-winner quote. I mean, I guess it is his winner quote, but talk about the hubris, right? I do think at this moment you look at this and you say Silas is not going to win. That's how I read this quote, not necessarily that he was going to go out today.
Yes. Well, it could have been a 3-3, couldn't it?
There's 7 people left. They're the 4 young people, and then you've got the 3 older. So you would have to have one of the older people flip on Silas. And like I said, it really does not make sense for them, for any of them to do that. Yeah. Silas, if anyone, Silas was the only one who had kind of played with the idea of playing both sides, and he quickly abandoned that. So the other 3 are going to vote for one of the older people.
My God, and his torturous explanation about why they should be voting for Linda.
Yep. Yeah, so we get
painful.
Yeah. So Kim Jae is safe, right? We at the beginning of the episode, we thought there was a good chance she was going to be going home, but because Boron wins, she's still around. And then Boron, celebrates by, and this is one of those moments. Yes, this moment is probably manufactured, but it is still lovely. They all go climb like a mountain, and
I liked that.
All around. Yes. Oh, I thought you would say that's another Lion King moment.
No, I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Tom struggling up the hillock. Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. So then we get like Samburu has to deal with the fact that somebody's going home. And so T-Bird T-Bird asks, like, we know one of us is going home. Which of us is it going to be? And they won't tell them. And again, that happens, right? Sometimes people do tell the person, some people they don't. But then Silas has this idea. He says, because past votes are used to break ties, right? We've seen this before. And so since none of us have votes except for Lindsay, right, it really makes sense for all of us, as he put it, to not put any votes on anyone other than Lindsay, right?
I don't understand. I didn't understand this at all.
Oh, okay. So then, because this happened, if you'll remember, in Australia, right, that there was a tie, right, and
yeah, exactly, and then
right, and so the person who has
votes
goes home. So Silas argues, if we get to the merge, and Lindsay has 4 votes, and I have 3, and Kim has 2 or whatever, right? Then we're all going to be vulnerable. We're better off having a situation where Lindsay has 17 votes on her, right, and nobody else has votes other than the person who goes home. So what he's saying does make a lot of sense from a game perspective, but he's forgotten that he's talking to humans, right? And the humans are looking at this saying, well, you basically told us that, we are expendable. You 4 are going to be the 4 last that are remaining. So why in the hell should I vote in a way that benefits your game?
Yeah.
But do you understand now what I was talking about from a strategy standpoint, what he's saying?
From a strategy standpoint, I sort of vaguely see it, but I don't. I just don't see how you could possibly.
Oh, no, and he's just, you want to talk about whatever the opposite of reading the room is, right? Because what doesn't make any sense for them to improve his chances. And that is why the 3 old people.
Actually, if anybody's been reading Genesis 38, it's Silas. He's taken it rather to heart. He is so self-indulgent and so self-obsessed.
What happens in 38? I'm not good with chapters.
Oh, I don't think we should go there. It's Onan.
Oh, okay. We won't go there.
Yeah. Onan the Barbarian. The film that Schwarzenegger didn't quite make.
So we have Silas, who, like I said, and this is kind of Silas in a nutshell. On the one hand, right, he understands the game, right? His idea, as far as it goes, makes sense, quote unquote. But it is not a good look for Silas at all. And of course, Silas, what happens? Silas ends up with 3 votes.
Yes. I think he would have got those 3 votes anyway, because he's just, you're right. The key is that he doesn't read the room.
Yeah, no, and this is not, there have been several times where he has not read the room,
And
but this to me is by far the most egregious.
He's a bit of an arrogant shit, really. And it disturbs me because, he had potential. And I don't know whether it's just that he's been psyched up by the other children, or whether it's because I thought he was potentially a leader.
I think Silas is a leader. He sees himself very much as a leader, right? But newsflash, in Survivor, you generally don't want to be the leader, especially early in the game, right? Leaders go home.
Yes.
And he's trying.
Well,
and he's doing
I think
he wants to be a leader. That's the thing with getting down on the knee, and he's going to coach them like a football team, right? He wants to be the leader, but I don't even know that he's leading the other 3 younger people, but he's trying.
Yes, I just don't. Genuflection is what he's doing. He's genuflection or a rather clumsy curtsy.
Now, I do wish I know, and I will have to look this up, what Silas's reaction was when he saw himself, because this could be one of these situations, like Kimmy last season, where somebody sees themselves on television and realizes, oh, I understand why some people might be annoyed by me. Right. But I have a feeling, again, with Silas, is he the kind of person who can learn? I don't know. I simply don't
have
know.
A lot of self-awareness, and certainly the struggles that he's been having recently suggest that.
But I do have to tell you, even though Linda has annoyed me, a great deal over the season,
oh, she's redeemed.
But the fact, right, that she just looks at him straight in the eye and says, "Excuse me, what's in it for us here?" Right, and it's clear that that is the one thing that he had not really thought through, because you can make an argument. I was trying to figure out how to make this argument that, in a sense, it could be good for all of us. Then,
it would be so torturous if you did it.
Oh, I'm not saying you would. I'm not saying it would be a winning argument.
You should never make. Do something else. Do something else. Achieve your goal by some sort of spurious argument, but don't make the argument which this is one of those things you cannot. But he didn't. They kind of cut away. None of this was resolved, and I would like to know what happened next in that actual conversation. Right? Yes, but you are intelligent enough. You are intelligent enough to work out. Okay, what we want is the votes to go to Linda if they're going to go anywhere, not to go to any of us, because we don't want to be endangered later on. How do I achieve that? At this moment, I certainly don't say that obviously. I find some other way of encouraging people not to vote for me. That's basically what he's doing. He's saying, don't vote for me.
Right. But the problem is, I feel like, and this is not a mistake he's making right now, he's been making for a long time, right? That when you make this very clearly us versus them, it's 4-3. Earlier in the episode, right, we were told that. I'm sorry. Does your cat need attention?
No. He's fine. He's fine.
He's just sorry that we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Paying attention to him. Okay, so we get to tribal council. And Probst does say something that I do think that is good for them to keep it. They needed to hear it. Silas needed to hear it when Probst says, if Boran goes into the merge with 5 solid votes and Samburu goes in with people who could flip, Samburu is in trouble. Right. And he's absolutely right about that. I feel like that is not something that has really been, because again, people in the past, right, have not really flipped so much on their tribes. But this might be the first season where we would see it, because, we get to, let's just say it is 5-5 again, or close to it. That means, again, that even if you got those 4 all survive, you've got at least 1 older people that you have brought to the merge. And the first thing that person is going to do is join Boran. So I do think they needed to hear that. They may have heard it too late, but at least they heard it.
Yes.
Talked about what Lindsay's saying, talking yourself a walking mistake. And you're right. And I did start to like her a little bit more here, because there had been nothing remotely vulnerable or friendly or kind, and I'm not saying she doesn't do anything like that, but we had not really seen it. And this is the first time we see her that, yes, I've known I've made mistakes in the game. right? That my fighting with Linda, might have put a target on my back, kind of.
Yes. It's
so that was difficult. And then the Brandon, these people are my friends even outside the game. Again, that is that is a dangerous thing to hear if you are on the other side, because you're saying not just that we're for strong, but we are not breaking up. This is no longer an alliance, right? This is a friendship. Now, query whether Brandon is being a little too naive here, right? We'll have to put.
He's being naive and rather lovable, but that is Brandon, he's probably in the wrong game.
Yep. Yeah, but we get to the vote, and not surprisingly, there are 4 votes on Linda, 3 votes on Silas. And Linda leaves us by saying, of course, she play nicely. And then, of course, in her final words, she says to us, namaste. Right. Which, again, you hear a lot in 2020, but you did not hear namaste a lot in 2001. I mean, I guess there were people who did yoga, but I don't think it was nearly as big of a part of the culture as it is now.
Yeah.
But again, this is I've never had any question about who Linda is. Right. Linda has her character, and this is who she is. She gives us a little bit on the way out. And then there was one other thing, just when if you did go to watch the votes at the very end, when Linda's giving her final words, and we're quickly flipping through the votes, Frank voted something he wrote like Silas/Chip. And
yes,
also,
what does that mean?
And there was also something before that where Linda had said something about Silas, like, I don't even really know what his name is. Did you catch that? Apparently it's because, so Silas, apparently, again, this is, in these deep dives, again, I only knew this from Mario. It's not something that I actually would have picked up on. But apparently Silas in real life goes by Chip, right? That is his name. That is his nickname. But I don't know, for whatever reason, they didn't want him to just play as Chip, right? They wanted him to play his legal name. So he kind of had 2 names in the game. That's where that comes from.
Right. How complicated.
Right. But then but the fact that Linda is using that and saying, like, see, I don't really even know what his name is. I don't know that that's really such a wonderful argument. People have nicknames, right? It doesn't mean that, he has aliases, so we can't trust him. Right. I don't know that really went far.
Yes.
And then we talked about for next week, we were going to see our first ever tribe swap, which I maintain will be random, and Tim will maintain that will not be random. But we will see. But it will then be interesting to see how these groups stack up, right?
Well,
and whether
I predicted this last week, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing what will actually happen.
Yep. So
I think in terms of predictions, I think Silas's days are numbered.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I certainly, after that one quote, I would go on record, and obviously I know how this ends, but I don't think it's a big spoiler. You'll see somebody saying something like that, and they're probably not going to win.
No, right? No. But I can't begin to tell you what a relief it was to see Ethan after a week without Ethan. To see Ethan again, and last week I think was the nadir of the show for me. It was just sort of a miserable episode last week.
It's so funny you say this, because it really is true with Ethan. On the one hand, he's not a big character up to this point. He's kind of a quiet guy, and it's interesting because he is a professional athlete, right? So that's not the behavior that I would expect from a professional athlete. But despite the fact that he is a professional athlete, he does not have that kind of hubris that Silas has.
No.
And he is kind of just, in a sense, you're saying this, that he's kind of the soul of the show, right? He's the nice guy.
Yeah. And he's got a side to him. We've seen it. But he sort of survives that. Yeah. And this is what you want to see from all the characters in the show. You want them to be recognizable. And you want to feel
humanity,
vulnerability, vulnerability, and interest. So, and I'm afraid that's been sadly lacking up till now. So today, as I say, first time in the series so far.
Again, that is not a mistake in 2020 that any reality producer will make. Right? They know that vulnerability sells and authenticity sells, and you will have authenticity coming out of your ears in not too much longer, right? On all of these shows.
Right. Okay.
But but that is a mistake that they learned with this, that, that even having a wonderful, wonderful backdrop of the location and even some interesting characters is not enough to make good TV if you don't care about any of them.
Yes. Or
and
if you've seen The Lion King.
Yes. But you're
And
right. Yeah,
E.T.
at this point, and the other two, I think after 4 episodes, if you look back, there would certainly be characters in both Borneo and Australian Outback that I would say that I'm interested in rooting for, all of that. Whereas, like you said, with the exception of Ethan, there really hasn't been anybody yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. We should stop.
Yep. All right. So, Tim, why don't you tell people where they can find you on social media, or do you want?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yes, because I have life on social media. I can be found on Instagram at Professor_Tim_Wilson, and on Twitter at Prof_Tim_Wilson. On YouTube, Zontul Films Limited, ZONTULFILMS LTD, and in American, ZONTULFILMS Ltd. And do I exist anywhere else?
I think that's most of it. I mean, you have a Facebook group, but Facebook page, but you don't use it much.
I like to think people can't find it, but rather a lot of people have found it. And
just use Professor Tim Wilson will bring up all of these, except for the exception of Zontul. Yes.
All right.
Yes, it's quite simple. Okay, and I am, of course, at Karen Talks a Lot on Twitter. That is the best place if you want to hear any show announcements, like last week when we had to postpone or whatever. That is the best way to find out in real time what is going on here. Fortunately, I can't announce a guest for next week, just the usual thing. I've not been able to confirm with this person, but I promise we should have a guest next week.
Oh my goodness, is this somebody that I've been cussing today? It's going to be Linda.
No. If it was going to be the person who was voted out, I would have told you that. That is not the person that we're going to have. I do have that planned for you a few times this season, but that would be so lovely after everything we've done to bring Silas in here.
Silas, what a joy! How lovely! How is? Shall we talk about police interrogation?
It's actually unfortunate because Silas actually was interviewed by Johnny at a charity event about 1.5 years ago, before all of this broke, and it was the first. He came to a charity event with Jesse, right? And it was the first time he had ever been to any of these events. Right. And he was, really enjoyed it. And, and that was his first and his last charity event, because a couple of months later he got arrested, and that was the end of that. So, like I said,
I am sorry because
Silas, but I don't think anybody unfortunately wants to hear from Silas.
So he's waiting for a court case now.
Multiple court cases in 3 or 4 states.
Poor man. I'm so sorry.
I don't know if I want to say poor man under the circumstances. Given the number.
I think we do, Karen. Poor victims.
Yes, and even in terms of I'm always look. I'm a retired attorney. I've worked for the Innocence Project. Right, just because he has been accused doesn't mean he did it. But in a case like this, if there's one accuser. I mean, I still do believe women, but I am more open to the idea that maybe there is another side to the story, right? Once there are 10 women, I think that's a much harder argument to make.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But yes, for the victims and for Silas, of course, if he was wrong.
How do people get to this point? They don't get. People are not made bad, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid television and exposure on television doesn't necessarily do people a lot of good.
Yeah.
So I think one has to be very careful.
Mm-hmm. Understood. All right.
The loved and the unloved.
Yep.
The people we need to think about and people we need to care for.
Yep.
And we need to care about people who are, who have done silly things with their life, and people who are in prison, and people who have made great mistakes. Ideally, it's not about punishment. Ideally, it's about turning around these characters so they become better people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, that is not a big part of the criminal justice system in the U.S. But
but it should be. But it is a part of humanity.
Yeah, no, I always say that everybody is more than the worst day of their lives or the worst thing that they've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, but we all have bad days, and sometimes it's better. Sometimes our bad day is much worse.
Yeah.
Than it might have been. But you know.
So on that cheery note, if you do want to check out more of what we do here at Reality NSFW, I'll go to adfreensfw.com. Become a patron. Besides the regular shows we do, and right now with the exception of Survivor, we are also covering the challenge with 2 shows a week, right? We go live at 9 right after the episode with Lauren Pratt and Alex Trias for a live reaction show. And then the following evening on Thursday night, we have a second show with Zach Hacker and Johnny Fairplay, and they are generally joined by Marie Rhoda, who is a veteran of, I believe, 5 seasons of the challenge. And so that has been a lot of fun if you're interested in checking that out. Very different kind of show than Survivor. It's basically mostly challenges and then a little bit of arguing. But the challenges are absolutely epic, and I do know a lot of people who are really, really enjoying it. I think that is everything. Oh, and yes, of course, please like, subscribe, click the button on YouTube so that you hear about all of our nonsense, and follow me on Twitter for updates. And we will see you next week, where we will talk with somebody about the tribe swap of Survivor Africa. Have a great
Which
day,
I predicted.
everybody. Yes, you did. And you've been saying it actually, not even just today. I think you even started saying it last week. And I'm really starting to think you're a bit of a reality TV savant. Like I said, even in Borneo, right? You have learned, I think it was one of the very few, like only a few episodes in, and you had basically, I think, decided that it was going to be Richard Rudy, and there was one other person.
Yes, I was better on that one. I was better on that one.
But anyway, all right. So we will all see you next week. Please stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask. We will get out of this, and we will see you next week at noon Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT on Reality NSFW Rewind. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.